Michael Caputo, former Trump campaign advisor, one of the recipients, one of the 81 who received the sweeping document request from Jerry Nadler, House Judiciary Committee. Sir, how are you? And good morning from Lancaster, New York. A week ago, you said you're not going to cooperate. Have you changed your mind?
No, I haven't. I think that there were some, kind of clickbaity headlines out there. My attorney immediately responded to the committee's request saying we had none of the documents they asked for. They asked me for 3 different kinds of documents about things that I had nothing to do with and was nowhere near, if they happened at all, like the Trump Tower meeting, any kind of discussions between Manafort and Gates and Russians and any Russians who were in contact with the Trump campaign. Of course, I was nowhere near any of that. Some of that probably didn't even happen. But in that conversation, the senior committee staffer asked my attorney if he would present me for testimony, and that would be the 4th time I've testified under oath, answering the same questions again. My attorney was palms up about it. We had a discussion. I don't intend to testify in front of them if they invite me. And I don't think anyone else who has testified under oath before should do it as well.
Could you give us some idea of what exactly what sort of documents they were looking for, what they wanted to dig into?
Sure. If you look at the 81 people who got document requests, some of them got 6 and 7 pages worth of requests. Like Don Jr., he's got to have 3, 4 attorneys working hard toward it. I had 3 paragraphs, less than a half a page. They asked me about the Trump Tower meeting with Russian attorney Veselnitskaya. I was in Cleveland at the convention at the time. I didn't hear about that meeting until it was in the press. They asked me if I had any documents about communications between Russian government officials or their intermediaries and the Trump campaign. Of course, none of that even happened, and I have none of that. And then they asked me as well for any documents I might have regarding Rick Gates and Paul Manafort communicating with 2 Russians and a Ukrainian, and I was nowhere near that. So I had nothing to give them, so we were immediately responsive. But if they're going to ask me with just 3 paragraphs of requests, they're probably the shortest document request in the entire 81. If they're going to invite me before the committee, they're going to invite all 81, and it's going to be a long, long summer.
How high or how deep are your legal bills to date, Michael?
Well, we're well over $200,000. I was able to raise all of that on GoFundMe. I raised enough on GoFundMe where I was able to pay the legal fees of several other Trump associates who were hauled in as witnesses as well. People like, who didn't have the wherewithal to pay, like my family. But unfortunately, right now, we're facing, every time you go before these guys, it's 20, 30,000. And if you're going to take the 5th, like I would do if they called me in, it's even more expensive. This is really a financial punishment. And, I'm going to have to raise it on GoFundMe again. It's just, it's a terrible thing. I've lost my business. Damn sure nearly lost my house. My kids, 4 and 6-year-old daughters, 16-year-old daughters, my wife. We've had our lives on pause for 2 years, and we were just about getting ready to press play with the presentation of the Mueller report, and here we go again.
So why do you think that Nadler and his committee are asking for this?
Well, I'll tell you, first of all, I'm from New York. I'm upstate New York, up in flyover country. But Jerry Nadler's down in Manhattan. He's no dummy. This guy is really sharp. He's been around a long, long time. People like to make fun of Democrats if you're on the Republican side. Don't make fun of Jerry Nadler. He is smart, and he knows what he's doing. I think he's trying to get entrap some people in perjury. Anybody who's testified before, like myself, truthfully, 3 times under oath. I testified beginning 2 years ago. Maybe I misremember a date or a color or a smell, and there I'm up on a perjury charge, right? And if he gets somebody on a perjury trap like that, they get them to flip and say something negative about the president, like Michael Cohen is doing. Jerry Nadler's trying to put together, trying to assemble, trying to create another Michael Cohen so they can impeach the president. That's what this is all about, a perjury trap leading to impeachment, and I'm not going to play.
No. Doesn't look like the president's going to play either. Adam Schiff made an appeal to him over the weekend to sit down with Mueller. Well, he's making the case that Mueller can't put out the report incomplete unless he gets the president under oath. Watch here from Sunday.
I think it is a mistake. When you get written answers from a witness, it's really the lawyer's answers as much as the client's answer. And here you need to be able to ask follow-up questions in real time.
I don't think it's going to happen. I don't know why it would, based on what you're hearing from Jay Sekulow and Rudy Giuliani?
Well, Chairman Schiff just doesn't want this to end. He's gotten so many headlines and so much camera time. He's been able to raise so much money. Why would he want that gravy train to end? The Russia collusion delusion is coming to an end. You know, the Mueller team is, whether you like them or you hate them, they're the most capable, most remarkable investigation team we've organized in America, and certainly in this millennium. And if they can't find Russian collusion, you think Chairman Schiff or Chairman Nadler and their team are going to find something? That's not going to happen.
Finally, we want to ask you, as the former Trump campaign advisor, to take a look at what's happening in 2020 so far. Who's in, who's out? Joe Biden's not even in the race. In this latest Des Moines Register poll, he's leading the pack. How do you think things are looking right now, Michael?
Well, I'll tell you, Joe Biden is someone who's out from from Western New York. He's from Scranton, Pennsylvania, just to our south. He's a good messenger for the working man. And, there are a lot of people that are holding off getting in or did not get in. Sherrod Brown, for one, and Terry McAuliffe in Virginia told me he's waiting to see if Biden gets in. He could shut down several different people that want to compete in this. I think Joe Biden is formidable, but as you know, as somebody who's got 100% name ID and served as vice president, his best day is the day before he gets in the race. So, he may be leading right now, but if he gets in this race, they'll be tearing him apart. I think Klobuchar is competitive. I think a lot of these folks are competitive. This is the Republican primary from 2016 with over a dozen people competing, ripping each other apart. And I think Donald Trump right now is just probably going to buy more popcorn and watch them rip each other up.
Thanks for coming in today. Michael Caputo, we'll talk to you again. Lancaster, New York, live with us. Thank you, sir, for being our headliner.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.